The reality about credit is that when people go through these challenges, they neglect to realize that the cost of their car insurance and homeowners insurance may actually double, that they'll no longer be able to finance a car for a period of 2 to 5 years. They may not be able to refinance the mortgage that they've got on their home, and they believe that if they do simple things, their credit will recover in a reasonably short period of time. Well, if that were true, I wouldn't have clients today who have net worths that are in the millions of dollars, yet they're 65 years of age and have never missed a payment but have terrible credit scores. When people begin to rebuild their credit, they're going to cut up their credit cards because obviously in many cases that's what got them into trouble in the first place. They're going to pay off any judgment or collection accounts because that will help them as well. Obviously, that's going to improve their credit. And lastly, they're going to try to make their payments on time. Interestingly enough, if you actually do those three things, it'll make your credit worse, not better. When people cut up their credit cards, what they don't recognize is that the major impact of credit cards is that it makes up nearly 30% of your overall credit score. It's interesting that only 35% of your score comes from whether you do or don't pay your bills on time, and the next largest component that helps create credit score comes from the usage of credit cards. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with whether you pay your credit cards on time or not. It has to do with whether or not you've got a high ratio or high credit utilization. The next issue is I'm going to pay off my judgments or collection accounts. The fact of the matter is, if you've had a collection that is several years old, by paying it, you'll actually make your credit worse. The impact to your credit is greatest in the month that something is being reported as being paid late or the activity date of when a judgment or collection was filed against you. With every month that goes by, even if you've never made a payment during that period of time, that negative impact is actually becoming less and less as time goes along because the negative impact is becoming less and less as time moves by. Now, 2 or 3 years later, you decide that you want to be a stand-up American and you're going to pay the bill. You're going to settle the account, whether you pay 50 cents on the dollar or 100 cents on the dollar. By doing that, you just made your most recent late payment by settling that account, and all of the negative impact that was going away with every passing month as time was mitigating that negative impact comes roaring back on. Your credit score plummets, and now for 7 years, that information will remain on your credit report. So in fact, paying the collection account, paying the bill, doesn't fix the credit. That isn't to say you shouldn't pay your bills. It is simply to say that they are certainly not one and the same, and it also illustrates how little people understand about how credit actually works. The last one is that they believe that if they just simply make their payments on time, everything's going to be so much better. Well, if that were the case, people would recover from major issues like bankruptcy in a very short period of time, when in fact they actually don't. If you had 6 credit cards and a mortgage in the past that was contributing to helping you build your credit, you may very well have had all of those credit cards and that mortgage taken away from you. Well, if you've got an entire 6 months to a year of late payment history leading up to that major financial crisis, and then it came to its conclusion through a short sale, a foreclosure, or a bankruptcy, now remember, you have all that time and all that good payment history that you must be able to show on paper in an effort to overcome that. How are you going to do that when most of the payments that you make, payments like cell phone, utility bills, insurance, none of which report to the credit bureaus at all? So you've got an entire year of late payment history leading up to this major crisis, and you have absolutely no good payment history with which to offset it. The bottom line is that it's not foreclosure, short sale, or bankruptcy that hurts a person's credit the most. It's the late payment history leading up to it and the good new payment history that must be there to be able to overcome it. So if a person can minimize that late payment history leading up to any one of those major financial crises, and then be able to rebuild themselves through a strategy immediately after that occurrence takes place, they can be back on their feet in a very short period of time and able to move forward with their financial and credit life.